What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome finally to this video that I've been dying to show you all for the past couple of months, which is my first ever game I've made ever, which is built in Unreal Engine 5. It's a VR horror game called Crypt Keepers. So I've actually just made a 4-minute long trailer of the world and everything I've created so far. I put music behind it. I'm actually really proud of it. It's actually sick. I'm impressed by it, but of course I am because I've made it. And this is the first ever game I've ever made, and I've always had a passion for making games, but never been able to do it. Like, I get addicted to games where I can make things in them. Like No Man's Sky, I got addicted to that for a while because you can build bases. Halo Forge, Dreams on PS4, but they never really hit the spot. Until I got Unreal Engine 5, it was like something got unleashed in me, and I was like, okay, I am loving this. And I bought shitloads of assets, I've spent loads of money, I've put loads of time into this, probably like 5 to 10 hours a day, every day for about 2 months. And what I'm going to show you in this trailer is what I created in that time. So I just wanted to explain that I've never made anything. So when you watch this trailer, bear in mind, this is like 2 months in development, where I was probably working towards like a 4-year time frame to maybe finish this. So obviously there's areas that are unfinished. I'm completely new to this, so I would love to know your thoughts when you're watching this, or at any point what you think, because I would love to know if this looks good. To me it does, because I've made it, but I'd love to know what you guys think. Does it look good? Does it look shit? I'd love to know your thoughts. But just quickly, there is one big issue with all of this. What you're going to see, there's a huge problem, and that problem is I'm never going to be able to finish it. I'm never going to be able to complete this game, and no one's ever going to be able to play it, which is devastating, but I've learned a lot of good things from that outcome. And yeah, I'll tell you more about that at the end. But for now, enjoy the trailer for Crypt Keepers. you go, that's my trailer for Crypt Keepers, and obviously there's no gameplay there yet, there's no mechanics implemented, it's just the world that I designed, which is pretty big and pretty ambitious as you've seen, but I want to explain to what the game is and the idea behind it. So if any of you know the game, The Hunt Showdown is, it's on PC, I think it's on consoles, but I play it on PC. It's a really good horror game. It's like an extraction-based looter. It's not even looter, it's like an extraction-based game where you go in with your friends in co-op, in teams, and you have to go through this map filled with different like horror enemies. It's really intense, it's a really sick game, you have to play it if you haven't already. But you go into this world and you have to try and find these different clues that will lead you to these giant boss fights, these like monsters, and you go and find these monsters eventually, but then you have to kill them. Once you kill them, you get their soul and you can extract them. They're like a bounty. So you extract the soul, and then once you've got the soul, you have to try and exit and extract the whole map while staying alive. The problem is you're online with all these other players that are also doing the same thing, and they're also finding clues to lead them to the same boss fights. So you're always up against people online, and it's really difficult because you can get killed really easily, and if they kill you, they can take the bounty. And it's like this really fun extraction game set in a horror world, and I just love that idea. And I just always wish that there was something like that in VR, and I've just never seen it in VR. I don't know if there is a VR game, but I've definitely not seen one. I've definitely not played one that's like that. I know there is certain things, certain games that are similar, but I really wanted to make like a really good high-end graphic game that has all of that implemented, but it's in VR, but make it really scary. So that's the idea behind Crypt Keepers. Now, the problem is that I have, and the reason why I said before I'll never ever be able to finish this, is because there was a moment whilst I was making this game where I was like, okay, I need to now start bringing in like weapons, like what weapons can I use? How is the fighting going to be? Because I want it to be like physics-based combat. So you start off in the map, you don't really have any weapons, maybe a dagger and something else. And as you go through the map, you find these different chests. And when you open the chest, you'll find maybe a sick sword, and then you find a shield and different pieces of armor throughout the whole map. And the reason why it was going to be called Crypt Keepers was underneath the map in the dungeons would be where you get the higher tier loot, but that would be where it's more dangerous, it's darker, it's scarier. That's where the players will always know to go down there if you want to get higher tier loot. So you're probably going to come into contact easier with other players online, and also I was going to make the enemies down there, like the NPC enemies that I was going to make down in these dungeons, really difficult. So you would just go down, you would get loot, and then you'd have to go and try and find these big boss fights, which you've seen at the very end of this trailer. That's just one enemy that I've put in there. I never got to animate him properly yet, but he would be like a big enemy boss fight that everyone would try to get to, and you'd have to defeat him, and once you defeated him, all the chests would open, and you'd have these really high tier loot. Then you'd have to try and extract from the map with everything, and then you can come back in with more XP, you can level yourself up, you come back in with all the weapons, so you don't start off like naked with nothing, and it would just be like this battle royale sort of extraction looter game, but set in a dark fantasy VR horror game. I just thought it would be the perfect VR game for what I would love anyway. But there's so many problems with it. I found out that physics-based combat in VR, to have that working right in multiplayer is such a task. Like, it's really difficult to do. That would have probably been impossible for me to figure out anyway. It's also really hard for companies that have 400 people working for them, or even more to do. So I found out that pretty quick that I wouldn't be able to do that. Then also I found out that doing multiplayer is so difficult. Like, to actually implement multiplayer is so difficult. You have to run servers, you have to pay for maintenance for the servers in case they go down. Like, who's gonna run these servers? Like, I never even thought of this shit. It's like, it's so much detail into actually making the game work that I never thought of. I was just like, I'm making this multiplayer game, everyone's gonna play it, it's gonna be the best VR game. Nah. It's probably never gonna be, it probably would never even work. And also, with it being on VR, your audience is going to be such a smaller base audience compared to like on console or on PC. So really, you're targeting a really small audience in VR who might not even be into this type of game because it's a horror game. Some people might not want to play it. So you might not even get that many people even playing it, And then the problem is, if you don't have that many people playing it, then they won't be able to find a server to join because no one will be there playing the game. And I never thought of any of this, and it just makes total sense now after I understood it all. I had a consultation from a guy who works on VR games. I paid for this guy from Fiverr. He did a consultation with me, he looked at the game, and he was like, this is going to be nearly impossible for you to do. You do realize that the game you're trying to make, like the Hunt Showdown, but in VR, the Hunt Showdown's probably got a team of like 500 to 1,000 people that are working on it. You're one guy trying to make VR, which is the most difficult type of game to make, supposedly, and you're trying to do it multiplayer with no idea how to do it. It's going to be one of the most impossible tasks. It'll take years and years and years. It'll cost you so much money, and it's probably just going to be a waste of time in the end anyway. So, and another thing he added was the frame rate has to be minimum 70 frames per second for it to be allowed to be even sold on Steam. And in VR, because it has to render twice, because each lens renders the scene once each, you have to render the scene twice. So to get 70 frames per second minimum is really difficult when you've got a game like that I've just made. Big open world, so much shit going on, trees everywhere, rocks, foliage, grass all over the place. Each scene is just rendering so much. I gotta explain that, like, that's also another thing that I need to, like, not do. Most VR games are just all set in linear pathways in small confined areas, not these huge open maps, like open world map. So it just made complete sense, and I realized that this is too much for me to do, and I need to stop doing this one and make another one. So that's what I've done. I've just made a brand new game. It's exactly the type of game that Crypt Keepers is, just way more condensed. It's more like setting dungeons and like inside buildings, like built castles, so it's more like built inside places rather than at big open worlds. And it does lead out to open areas, but they're more confined between like castle walls. And already I feel like it's just so much better. I'm enjoying making this second game of Crypt Keepers even more than I did with this. It feels like I've learned so much after doing this, and now the detail and the design and the world that I'm building feels way more thought about, and I'm getting the best frames per second. I'm at all the lighting, everything's working really, really well in this second game. So that will be another video. I'll be showing you this second game at some point, but I just wanted to show you what I was working on, which was Crypt Keepers, my very first game that I'll never be able to finish, but I wanted to give it to all you guys so you can tell me what you think, and if you think it's a good idea or not. I would love to know your thoughts down below, and please drop me a like if you enjoyed this video, and also if you are new here and you want to see more videos from me, then hit that subscribe button. That'd be amazing for me. But thank you so much for watching, guys, and take care, and I'll see you all on the next one.